Imagine a world just completely transformed by, well, the roar of cannons. A world where gunpowder armies are redrawing the whole map.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about.
From the gates of Vienna, all the way to India, even China under the Great Wall's shadow. These
Hmm.
huge land-based empires rising and sometimes falling spectacularly.
And leaving these legacies that we're still dealing with today, really.
Exactly. So welcome to this deep dive. Today we're getting into the fascinating story of these massive powers between roughly 1450 and 1750.
We're talking Ottoman, Safavid, Mughal, and King dynasties primarily.
Right. And you, our listener, shared your AP World History Unit 3 review with us, so we're using that as our roadmap, trying to pull out the really compelling stuff.
Looking at how they grew so big, how they actually governed, and the role belief systems played in it all.
Yeah. So our mission here is to give you a clear, kind of engaging understanding of their key features, maybe some surprising comparisons, how they interacted.
Like a shortcut through this really pivotal era without getting lost in, endless names and dates.
Precisely. So gunpowder, that seems to be the starting point, the big catalyst,
Absolutely. It's fascinating how this relatively new tech gunpowder just interacts with existing politics and beliefs.
and creates something totally new on a massive scale.
Yeah, it's like this huge force multiplier. Our source material definitely points to these gunpowder empires.
Ottoman, Safavid, Mughal, King, all of them using these powerful new weapons, cannons, armed trade, the works.
Exactly. The states that really figured out how to use gunpowder effectively, well, they just gained this huge military advantage.
It makes sense. If you look at the bigger picture, it's a classic case of tech innovation changing the whole power balance.
Those who mastered it could grab huge territories, project power in ways that were just, well, impossible before.
Okay, let's zoom in on the Ottomans first.
Yeah.
After the Mongol Empire broke up, they really came into their own.
Two things seem key for their rapid growth, right?
Yeah, controlling the Dardanelles seems like a huge strategic win. Location, location, location.
Oh, definitely. That strait between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, controlling that gives you immense economic and strategic leverage. It's a chokehold.
And their early effective use of gunpowder weapons.
Right. Think about the fall of Constantinople in 1453. Mehmed II used these enormous cannons.
To break down walls that had stood for centuries.
It wasn't just a military win, it was hugely symbolic, signaling this new era of warfare and Ottoman dominance.
And then renaming it Istanbul, making it the absolute jewel, the heart of their empire.
A very clear statement.
Okay, let's shift east a bit to Persia. The Safavid Empire, popping up in the early 1500s. Their story takes a really distinct religious turn, doesn't it?
It really does. What's so interesting is Shah Ismail declaring the empire a Shia Muslim state.
Which was a massive decision.
Huge, because think about the history, the Sunni-Shia split.
Yeah.
This decision basically locks in the Safavid religious identity.
And sets them apart from their neighbors.
Exactly. It creates this political and religious isolation from the big Sunni powers nearby, the Ottomans to the west, the Mughals to the east.
So it defined them, but also potentially made them vulnerable.
It did, but they also adapted. They got good with gunpowder, too. Under Shah Abbas, they became a real military force, capable of expansion themselves.
Okay, moving further east again. India, the Mughal Empire. Babu kicks it off in the 16th century.
And he also sees the power of gunpowder right from the start, uses it to win his initial battles.
But the Mughals, especially under Akbar, seem different in how they rule.
That's a really key point. Akbar's approach to the Hindu majority, his religious tolerance, was, well, pretty remarkable for the time.
And that helped keep things stable, allowed them to prosper.
Absolutely. It led to this period of relative internal peace and economic success in the 16th century. It shows military power is only part of the story.
You need good governance, social cohesion, too.
Vitally important for long-term success.
Right. Okay, let's go all the way east. China. The Qing dynasty. But first, the Ming were there.
Yeah, the source reminds us the Ming dynasty, who were Han Chinese, they also used gunpowder for expansion.
But they weakened. Internal problems, wars.
Pretty much. Internal divisions, costly wars. It created an opening.
An opening for the Manchus from the north.
Right. The Manchus established the Qing dynasty in 1636. And what's really crucial here is the ethnic difference.
They weren't Han Chinese.
No. The Manchus were a distinct ethnic group ruling over this vast Han majority.
And they spent decades conquering the old Ming territories.
About 40 years, taking Taiwan, parts of Mongolia, a huge military achievement, But that ethnic difference, that would cause ripples down the line, definitely.
So similar tech, gunpowder, but very different paths and internal issues for each empire.
Exactly. And all this expansion, well, it naturally led to clashes.
Like the Mughal-Safavid War in the 1600s
Hmm.
over the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, but it wasn't just about land or trade routes, was it?
No, religion seems deeply tangled up in it.
Absolutely. Political goals and religious identity were completely intertwined. The Shia Safavids versus the Sunni Mughals.
Both claiming to be the true successors to earlier Islamic states.
Right, so this religious rivalry just amplified the fighting over territory. It led to decades of war, really, with no clear winner in the end.
It shows how powerful belief systems could be in fueling conflict.
Definitely.
And we also see this tech difference playing out in Africa. Songhai Empire versus Morocco, Battle of Tondibi.
Right. The Songhai were rich from trans-Saharan trade, but internally weak. Morocco wanted those trade routes.
And Morocco had the technological edge.
Precisely. Morocco won decisively because they had gunpowder weapons, firearms. The Songhai didn't.
A stark example of how gunpowder was reshaping power dynamics even beyond Eurasia.
Big shifts happening in Africa, too, because of it.
Okay, so expansion fueled by gunpowder. But holding on to these huge empires, managing diverse people. How did they do that?
Right, that's the next big question. Administration. And the source talks about legitimizing and consolidating power.
Two key ideas. What do they mean in practice?
Well, legitimizing is about establishing your right to rule, convincing people you should be in charge. Consolidating is about putting the systems in place to actually exercise that control and keep it.
Making sure no one challenges you easily.
Exactly. They really go hand in hand for any empire that lasts.
And one of the main tools was creating big, complex bureaucracies.
Makes sense. Bigger empire, more land, more people. You need more officials, more systems to manage it all.
Our source gives the Ottoman Devshirme system as a really interesting example.
It is fascinating and morally complex from our perspective today. They recruited Christian boys from the Balkans, essentially as slaves.
But raised them within the Ottoman system.
Yes, raised in Turkish homes, converted to Islam, educated in Istanbul. The idea was to sever their old ties.
Create loyalty directly to the Sultan.
Precisely. Instead of loyalty to some regional lord who might rebel. So they created this class of officials and soldiers, the Janissaries, who were completely dependent on and loyal to the central power. A very effective way to centralize control.
Really unique. And these guys became top administrators, top soldiers.
The best often rose very high. And the Devshirim also supplied the Janissaries, the core of their standing army, so it met both admin and military needs.
And we see similar trends elsewhere, right? Like the salaried samurai in Tokugawa, Japan, centralizing control there too.
Yeah, the source uses that as a comparison. The samurai shift from being independent warriors tied to land to becoming salaried bureaucrats paid by the lords or the shogun.
Paid in rice, often.
Right, which made them dependent, reduced their autonomy. It was key for the Tokugawa shogunate to keep the peace after all that warfare. Centralizing power again.
Okay, so bureaucracies, professional militaries. But rulers also use softer power, right? Religion, art, architecture.
Absolutely. These are crucial tools for legitimacy. Let's start with religion. The Mexica or Aztecs and human sacrifice. It seems brutal, but it served a purpose in their power structure.
How so? Beyond just the religious belief.
Well, the belief was about feeding the sun god, needing blood. But the sheer scale, the public nature of these rituals, often using prisoners of war, it was a terrifying display of power.
A demonstration by the priests and rulers.
Exactly. It visually reinforced their dominance. Don't mess with us, basically.
Then in Europe, you have the concept of divine right. Kings ruling because God chose them.
A very direct justification. In Christian Europe, this was potent. The idea that the monarch's power came directly from God gave their rule a sacred quality.
So opposing the king was like opposing God.
Pretty much. Which is obviously a strong deterrent to rebellion.
And in the Songhai Empire in Africa, Aski Muhammad used Islam to unify and legitimize.
Yes, he actively promoted Islam, made it the state religion, supported Islamic law, funded education in places like Timbuktu, went on pilgrimage to Mecca.
So it wasn't just personal faith, it was statecraft.
Definitely. It helped create a shared identity in a diverse empire and strengthened his position. Religion as a unifier.
Okay, what about art? The king emperors and their portraits, like
Yeah.
Emperor Kangxi.
Yeah, those portraits weren't just decoration. Remember, the king were Manchu, ruling over Han Chinese.
An ethnic minority in charge.
Right. So by having portraits painted that showed Kangxi embodying Confucian ideals, wisdom, fairness, good governance, they were trying to appeal to their Han subjects.
To show they were legitimate rulers in the Chinese tradition.
Yeah.
Worthy of the mandate of heaven.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Using art to bridge that ethnic gap and legitimize their rule.
And architecture. Empires love big buildings. The Incan Sun Temple in Cusco, Coricancha, covered in gold.
An incredibly powerful statement, associating the Inca rulers with the divine sun god and the sheer opulence, the gold, just screamed wealth and power, a very visible symbol of their authority.
Then the Mughals, the Taj Mahal, the Jama Masjid in Delhi.
Stunning buildings. They showcased Mughal wealth, power, their Islamic faith, absolutely, but also something else.
What's that?
A blending of styles, Persian, Indian, Islamic influences all coming together. It symbolized a kind of cultural and religious synthesis they were overseeing, or at least projecting.
And in Europe, you get palaces like Versailles under Louis XIV.
Oh, Versailles, the ultimate statement of royal power, perhaps.
Just the sheer scale is overwhelming.
Designed to awe everyone, foreign visitors, their own people. But Louis XIV also used it strategically, didn't he?
How so?
By making the French nobility live there for chunks of the year. He could keep an eye on them, limit their independent power back home, make them dependent on his favor.
Wow. So the palace itself was a tool for consolidating power.
A very effective one, centralizing control through architecture and court life.
Okay, so expansion, administration, legitimacy.
Yeah.
But running these massive operations cost a fortune. How did they pay for it all?
Good question. Armies, officials, building projects, they all needed serious cash. And we see different methods.
Like the Mughal Zamindar system.
Right. They used local landowners, the zamindars, to collect taxes for the central government.
Even though the rulers were Muslim and many taxpayers were Hindu?
Yes. It was a practical way to get revenue and also to kind of co-opt local elites, integrate them into the imperial system, extend Mughal authority.
Leveraging existing structures. What about the Ottomans? Tax farming. Sounds a bit risky.
It could be. Tax farming meant auctioning off the right to collect taxes in an area.
So the highest bidder gets the job.
Exactly. The benefit for the government was guaranteed income up front, and they didn't have to manage legions of tax collectors directly.
But the downside?
The tax farmer had an incentive to collect more than required to make a profit, which could lead to corruption, squeezing the population, resentment. It was a double-edged sword.
And the Mexica.
Yeah.
They seem more direct. Tribute lists.
Very direct. Detailed lists of exactly what conquered territories had to send to the capital, Tenochtitlan. Goods, food, textiles, precious metals, even people for sacrifice.
A clear system for extracting wealth and reinforcing who's boss.
Absolutely. It fueled the capital's wealth and power.
Lastly, the Ming in China, shifting to taxes in hard currency, silver.
Yeah, that was a big economic shift. Moving away from collecting taxes and goods, like grain, towards silver.
What effect did that have?
It helped standardize the economy, made trade easier, both inside China and internationally, but it also made them really dependent on silver.
Especially when all that silver started flowing in from the Americas.
Exactly. That huge influx contributed to inflation and made the Ming economy quite vulnerable later on.
Okay, so we've got expansion, administration, finance. Let's turn to belief systems. The source talks about continuity and change, how religion both supported empires but also sometimes challenged them.
Right. This is where culture, politics, belief really intersect. Look at Europe. Christianity had dominated for centuries.
But then came the Protestant Reformation, a massive challenge.
Huge. The Catholic Church was incredibly powerful, wealthy, but there were growing criticisms. Practices like selling indulgences, simony appointing people to church offices for money.
And Martin Luther, a monk, starts questioning this based on the Bible.
Yes. He objects, writes his 95 Theses, nails them up in Wittenberg. It's this iconic moment.
And the church doesn't take it well.
Not at all. They label him a heretic, excommunicate him, but it was too late.
Because of the printing press.
Absolutely crucial. As the source notes, the printing press let Luther's ideas spread like wildfire across Europe, way faster and wider than any previous reformer's ideas could have.
Igniting the Reformation, splitting Western Christianity.
Exactly. And the Catholic Church had to respond. They launched their own counter-reformation.
The Council of Trent.
Right. They did make reforms, stopped selling indulgences, cracked down on simony, but they also doubled down on core Catholic doctrines that Protestants rejected.
Like salvation through faith and works, the authority of the church alongside the Bible.
Yes. So the reforms actually solidified the split rather than healing it.
And this religious split had massive political consequences.
Enormous. Rulers chose sides, Catholic or Protestant. This fueled political conflicts, devastating religious wars across Europe that lasted well into the 1600s.
So belief systems directly challenging and reshaping power structures there. What about in the Middle East? The Ottomans and Safavids again.
That Sunni-Shia divide we talked about becomes even more intense.
Because it lines up with the political rivalry.
Perfectly. The Sunni Ottomans versus the Shia Safavids, their wars weren't just about land. They were framed as conflicts between the true version of Islam competing for religious legitimacy.
And the Ottomans generally came out on top in those fights.
Generally, yes, which further hardened that Sunni-Shia division as a major fault line in the region, often exploited for political ends.
Okay, finally, South Asia. The Mughals ruling over Hindus. We see blending.
Yes, it's a fascinating case of cultural exchange and syncretism. You had existing movements within Hinduism, like the Bhakti movement.
Which emphasized personal devotion to gods.
Right. And it found common ground with Sufism, the mystical side of Islam. There was interaction, sharing of ideas.
And then Sikhism emerges.
Yes, Sikhism is a distinct new faith that consciously blends elements from both traditions.
Like belief in one god, which is essential to Islam, but also reincarnation from Hinduism.
Exactly. And it also challenged existing social structures, rejecting the Hindu caste system and trying to reduce gender hierarchies. A really compelling example of belief systems adapting and changing in response to contact and context.
So pulling it all together for this deep dive, these huge land-based empires between 1450 and 1750, they rose on the back of military expansion, often gunpowder-fueled.
Definitely. Then they built these complex administrations to manage it all, using everything from bureaucracy and tax systems to religion, art, and architecture to legitimize their rule.
And belief systems were woven through everything, sometimes supporting the empires, sometimes, like the Reformation or the Sunni-Shia conflict, acting as forces for huge change and division.
Yeah, it's incredibly interconnected.
What's a key connection or maybe a surprising contrast that stands out to you?
Well, I think the different approaches to religious diversity are really striking. You've got Akbar and the Mughal Empire promoting tolerance, which seems to have fostered stability, for a time at least.
Yeah. Compared to the
Safavids, whose strong Shia identity was central to their state, but also fueled constant conflict with their Sunni neighbors.
And the Ottomans had their own system, the millet system, allowing some religious autonomy.
Right. So different strategies for managing diverse populations leading to different outcomes. It really highlights how crucial that was for these empires' long-term health.
That's a great point. And it makes you think, how do those lessons apply today? Our world is arguably more interconnected than ever.
The borders, the cultures, the religious landscapes we see now, so much of it was shaped in this period.
Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener. Considering this constant dance between power, belief, technology, like gunpowder back then, what forces are shaping the empires of our time?
Are they technological,
Yeah.
economic,
Right?
ideological? And thinking about how those historical empires handled diversity, both successes and failures, what does that tell us about the challenges of governing our complex, globalized world today?
Definitely something to chew on. If any of this sparked your interest, we really encourage you to dig deeper into these empires. The Ottomans, Safavids, Mughals.
King.
Absolutely. There's so much more fascinating history there to uncover.